Hi, guitarists have many natural enemies, faulty cables, people who tell us to turn down, metronomes, and of course the worst, written notation. So, today I'm going to show you how to get to grips with written notation, the kind of charts you like to see, and how to read them. Okay, so it's a bit of a cliche about guitar players not being able to read. I think it has got better recently, but you still hear people say, oh, I don't see the point of reading. Well, I agree with Steve Lukather. I think it's, well, I'm sure he'll be glad about that. But anyway, I agree with him. So I think it's really important for playing with musicians who aren't guitar players, and also to play the music of people who aren't guitar players. It's not quite the 1960s. You don't sort of rock up to a session and find written notation there all the time. You do sometimes. But it is very common in big band and theatre circles and so on and so forth. So they're quite different from the kinds of reading we might be more familiar with as guitar players. They're not classical guitar parts.
This is the view from the guitar chair, and you can see that probably get an idea of what time this has been recorded during the year from the repertoire. I'm just going to leaf through this so you get an idea of the kind of things that you might see on a gig. Most of it's chords, slashes, a few rhythm hits here and there. This is all going to be sight reading for me because I don't play these charts very often. Now, you know, there's a single note line here, for instance. That's in the bass clef, although this is the piano part. Piano guitar double, so I probably won't be expected to play that. That might be a tacit for me. And then there is a guitar feature. I'm not sure if we're going to play this or not, which is Christmas Time Is Here from Charlie Brown Christmas. Here we have a single note part written out and some chords specified.
So we'll start with rhythmic slash notation. That's kind of the main thing to learn, really. It's certainly 80 to 90% of what you would be doing on a big band gig, for instance. Okay, so this is a well copied chart here, and you can see that there's a lot of chords. And there's some rhythmic details that you need to catch on them. And there's also some slashes. So the slashes generally mean do your own thing. But for a big band gig, that's often play straight fours like Freddie Green, right? Now, there's a lot of chords here. I would tend to cut things down, but I would not tend to play the 13ths or even the flat fives or anything. I'd use a lot of shell voicings, 1, 3, 7 for everything. At least until I got a second look at the charts. So if I was just sight reading, I probably wouldn't play that B augmented, for instance. I did D minor, and yeah, sort of F13, B flat. That's kind of how my brain works. That is experience, I'm afraid. That's something you have to work out. A lot of these details are things that hook up with the horns. So often, if you don't play them, it's not the end of the world. But it's good to have an idea of how to read the rhythms. So I'm going to take this first couple of bars, and we're going to apply something called the invisible bar line rule. And basically all professionally copied jazz charts, at least in the past few decades, obey this rule. So you put a line down the middle of the bar, and then this is effectively the same as a bar line. You can't cross it unless you tie over it. And this makes music a lot easier to read. Part of the reason is that it separates the bar of 4/4 into two beat sections. So within that, if you think of all the possible combinations of eighth notes or quavers, you're going to have about 16, and you can find them all in the handout I've got. And your aim should be to try and learn to hear those as soon as you see them. So I'm looking at this thing here. It's 2 eighth notes with an eighth note rest, another eighth note behind it. It could also be written as eighth note, quarter note, eighth note, and I know that goes ba-da-da. Yeah, I just know it. Cucumber. I don't think that works very well. I saw that one on a YouTube video. Do-do-do. Da-da. Swinging the. Do-do-do. I don't really think of words. Some people have phrases for everything, right? So there's slashes there. That's kind of do your own thing. But let's think of them as being quarter notes. So the first bar goes like this. Ba-ba-ba-da-da. 2, 3, 4. Okay? Now you'll see that the last note of the first bar is tied into the second bar, into the first beat. So we don't have anything on the first beat of that bar. Ba-da-dee-da-da. Doom-doom. Da-da-dee-da-da. Doom-doom-boom-da. And there's another push. Doom-da. So check out my video about pushes if you don't know what those are. I've got a rhythm video which I'll attach a link to. But this is how they look when they're written down. So chord-wise, I'm just do a little on the tempo. Boom, boom, begin. So on, right? So let's have a look at the next page. Again, this all features the invisible bar line rule. So we look at bar 43. We have, if we put a line down the middle, we have on one side, do, do, do. On the other side, so it's syncopated. So together it goes boom, boom, don, don, don. Okay, and the chords go 2, 3, 4. Very traditional sort of sound. And then we've got a G7. I'll play that as an augmented triad, actually. I probably wouldn't even put the 7th in. And again, if we put the line here, it might not be quite where you expect. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, So, okay, that's how that goes. Let's look at bar 13. This is tied across the invisible bar line. You can see that there's a half note, which occupies the second half of the bar. And then there's a da, dee, da in the first half. So it goes do, do, da. Okay? So, like that, right? Got a D minor, boom, on the beat. And then on the other half of the bar 51, we have ba, boom, boom, ba, boom, ba. So the rhythm for the whole of 50 to 53 goes ba, boom, da, ba, 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 and so on, right? So let's go. Boom, boom, not quite sure if that G7 is lining up the way the arranger intends. It's really hard to tell sometimes. That's just the way it is with with charts. Sometimes you have a bit of interpretation to do. Okay, so sometimes you come across written out single notes, and it's good to get into this. I know it can be intimidating for many, but the actual basic system is really very simple. So the thing to understand is that the treble clef, which is what we usually read from. Sorry about the 8 down there. MuseScore insists on doing that for guitar music. It's nothing to worry about for now. But hopefully you can appreciate that squiggle is kind of a glorified G. And that goes around the second line from the bottom. And if we go to the next one, you can see that there's a line that I've written right through there. And that's your G line. That tells you where the G is. And you can see G, A, B, C, D, E, F going up there through the musical alphabet. So we don't have the whole alphabet, obviously. We go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and we go back to A again. So here we go, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, which happens to be a 1-octave dominant scale. I practice 1-octave scales. I've got a video about that as well, which will appear above, so check that out if you haven't watched that one. I'll talk a little bit more about how to do that on the guitar in a second, but it's important to be able to discern the sigils and work out what on earth is being written in front of you. And one good way of doing that is to practice just reading the notes away from the instrument. So I've got a secret code here which explains how I feel and have felt for the past 7 years. You can have a look at that. Let's see if you can work out what it says. Just a quick note about the structure of these basic notes, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. Note that there's a half step, which is the same thing as 1 fret on the guitar, between the B and the C and the E and the F. And if you go through different keys with different sharps and flats, we'll talk about that in a second, you're going to get different half steps, but it's worth knowing that. And you can relate that to the layout of the piano keyboard as well, which can be a useful memory aid. Now, sharps and flats. So we have the hashtags, which make the note a semitone higher, which on the guitar translates to 1 fret higher. So a C sharp is just like a C on the guitar. Again, we'll talk about this in a second, but 1 fret higher. And then we have the flat notes, which work the opposite way around, so they go down. You can also see a pointy box formation as well. This means that the note goes back to normal. But in jazz, we tend to have lots of these things, so it's worth looking out for them. One note of caution, as it were. This always used to confuse me when I was learning to read music. If you have a note that's sharp, say, for instance, the C is made sharp at the beginning of the bar, then that sharp for that note lasts the whole bar, unless it's cancelled out by one of the pointy box things. Same for flats, right? So these accidentals, as they're known, will stay the same within the bar, unless they're reset with a pointy box natural sign. Now that's confusing because when you go into the next bar, it resets. So you're back to normal. Again, that's something you just kind of have to get used to. It's a very annoying convention. I wish it didn't exist, and yet it does. So here we are. Now, the other thing that I think is sometimes a bit sneaky is sometimes these like to hang out by the squiggly fancy G, or G clef, or treble clef as people insist on calling it. And this is something you have to watch out for. Okay, so notes on the guitar. So I would start in 4th position here with our notes from that G dominant scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, right? G, A, B, C, D, E, F, E, D, C, B, A, G. I'd say the notes like that. And make sure you're right, so do it slowly. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, E, D, C, B, A, G. Okay? Now, okay, here's the thing. Once we're comfortable with that, we want to start randomizing it a little bit. So we can use intervals such as thirds. G, B, A, C, B, D, C, E, D, F, E, G. And then coming down, G, E, F, D, E, C, D, B, C, A, G. Sorry, B, G. It's quite hard to say sometimes. If I made any mistakes, I'm sure you'll let me know about it in the comments. I quite like musical words, so let's do bad, cabbage, cafe. Every one of those words, every one of those letters belongs to our musical alphabet. And it's a good way to make sure we know a position. So let's go bad, B, A, D, cabbage, C, A, B, B, A, G, E, cafe, C, A, F, E, right? And once you've got that in one position, obviously do it in all positions. So, well, what about up here? Let's do that one. So, bad, G, A, B, so that's B there, right? B, A, D, cabbage, C, A, B, B, A, G, E, and then cafe, C, A, and then F is here, F, E, okay? Do that all over the neck. And you can do sharps and flats as well. So as with jazz musicians, I'm going to put a couple of flats in, and we're going to go. It will come out a bit funny, but it works as a reading exercise. So, okay, bad. B flat, A, D, okay, cabbage, C, A, B flat, B flat, A, G, E flat, okay, then cafe, C, A, F, E flat, okay. And that's how you learn to read on the guitar. It's not so hard, is it? Obviously, this is only scratching the surface, but I think that's the essential, absolute bare bones skills, I would say, is necessary to start reading on the guitar. And then just read and just work out stuff as you go, and try and get in a rehearsal band, or maybe just read some music with friends. It can be hard to get hold of actual professional charts because they are all in copyright. MuseScore is quite useful. And you can find things lying around on the internet. I will say no more. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you find it helpful. Let me know how you get on. Bye-bye. Hi, so some quick book recommendations. I really like the Louis Belson Modern Reading Text in 4/4. Fantastic. Pages and pages of it. It gets more and more surreal, more and more weirdly written out as you go on. It's great practice. It's just the rhythms, no pictures, so you can just focus on that side of your reading. I also like the Adam Levy sight reading for jazz guitar, I think it's called. That's a great book. Really nice musical examples. A lot of people use the William Leavitt reading texts. I find them a bit dry, but you might get something out of them. Real music is great, so I read a lot through the original 6th edition, or whatever it is, 5th edition, I think, real book, which is good practice. The new real books by the Share Publishing Corporation are really good because they have a lot of arrangement details, and the tunes go from jazz standards, fairly straightforward, right through to crazy 80s fusion charts that are really hard to read. So that's a good cross section of difficulty. Just choose a page where it looks like it's not going to be too horrible, and use that as your grading of difficulty. Also, the Omnibook, Charlie Parker Omnibook. I use a Jimmy Rainey Aebersold with transcribed solos by Rainey. Quite hard, very good practice. Practice both setting your metronome nice and slow so you can get all the notes right, and also fast, making mistakes so you can get used to sight reading on the spot, if that's the sort of thing you're into.